In the world of entertainment, some bonds glow quietly. They do not shout. They do not brag. They simply exist, steady and warm, even when storms come. This is the story of two actors, Yibo and Zhan. Their journey began with a simple meeting, but over the years it grew into something deeper. Something the public could sense. Even if they never said it out loud, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the story to keep the light burning for truth and compassion. This is not gossip. This is not a rumor. This is a drama-style interpretation of what affection, trust, and unspoken connection can look like between two people whose lives are always watched by others. Today, the question is simple. What is going on between them now? And the answer, like most things between them, is quiet, gentle, and hidden between the lines. They met in the ordinary way actors do. The studio lights were bright. The director was impatient. The script was thick. And the crew hurried around with long lists and loud voices. But something unusual happened. When Yibo entered the rehearsal room, he found Zhan sitting alone by the window, turning the pages of the script one by one. The late afternoon sun fell on his hair. It made him look like he was inside a painting. Yibo paused for a moment. He was not the type to pause. He usually moved fast, talked little, and focused on the job. But this time his steps slowed. Zhan looked up. Their eyes met. It lasted only a second, but the feeling stayed longer. In that moment, it felt like something new began. Something neither of them intended. Something neither of them could stop. During the first rehearsal, they read lines facing each other. The director watched with surprise because their voices blended with a natural rhythm, like they had practiced for months, even though they had just met. When the scene ended, no one spoke for a second. It was as if everyone sensed the shift. Two actors who should have been strangers looked unexpectedly synchronized. Later that day, a staff member whispered, "They have chemistry." But what no one knew was that this chemistry did not stay on set. It followed them. Affection does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it grows slowly, like a soft flame that learns how to breathe. After weeks of filming, Yibo and Zhan found themselves drawn to each other for reasons neither could explain. They began to share small conversations.
Quiet moments.
Hidden smiles. Yibo, who was known for being reserved, surprised everyone when he started staying longer after rehearsals. Sometimes he helped Zhan memorize lines. Sometimes he simply sat beside him, both of them silent, but comfortable. Zhan, who usually carried the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, found himself relaxing around Yibo in ways he did not expect. Yibo's calm presence eased his worries. His quiet confidence gave Zhan strength. Their friendship began to deepen. People around them noticed simple things. They shared meals sometimes. They laughed more often. They trusted each other with details they did not share with others. Still, nothing was spoken. Everything remained unlabeled. But the affection was there, growing quietly between them. Some nights, after a long day, Yibo would walk Zhan to his car. They talked about dreams, fears, and the strange life that came with fame. And even though the conversations were brief, they carried weight. They became each other's safe place. But in entertainment, nothing remains hidden forever. Fans noticed their bond. Media noticed their timing. Reporters noticed the way their eyes softened around each other. Some celebrated it. Some questioned it. Some invented stories that were never true. This pressure created distance for a while. Their schedules pulled them apart. Different projects, different cities, different teams. Some days, weeks passed without a message. Yet, neither of them forgot the bond they shared. Even when silence filled the spaces, the connection remained. Yibo felt it most when he danced. Zhan felt it most when he sang. Art reminded them of each other. They both carried a memory of the other, quietly. Years later, fate brought them back into the same city again. It was not planned. It was not expected. But destiny rarely waits for permission. Their reunion was simple. A message. A meeting. A conversation that began with a smile neither had used in a long time. They talked about everything they had been through. The noise. The stress. The misunderstandings. The pressure from people who thought they knew the truth when they did not. And slowly, the distance melted. That night, they fell back into the rhythm they once had. Not as colleagues, not as actors, but as two people who understood each other without needing explanations. Their affection returned, stronger than before. Today, the truth is simple. They remain close. They remain supportive. They remain connected. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is not public. It is the kind of relationship built on quiet loyalty. When one releases new work, the other watches. When one struggles, the other senses it. When one succeeds, the other smiles privately. They do not need to show it. They do not need to explain it. The bond they share is not something that needs permission from the world. What is going on between them now? They are living their own lives, but they are still part of each other's story. Their connection has matured into something respectful, gentle, and steady. Not romance, not rumors, not drama, but affection. Pure, strong, unshakable affection. The kind that stays even when the world becomes loud. The kind that survives distance and time. The kind that does not need to be defined to be real. No one knows what the future holds for them, not even themselves. But one thing is clear. They carry each other's names carefully. They protect each other from unnecessary noise. They move through the world with quiet coordination, even from afar. Fans may ask for answers. Media may create stories. But the real connection between them belongs only to them. Their journey continues. Maybe one day they will work together again. Maybe one day they will sit side by side under studio lights once more. Maybe one day they will share a project that reminds the world of the spark that began their story. But even if they do not, their bond will remain. Unspoken, steady, enduring. In a world filled with noise, their affection is a soft truth that does not fade. This is their story. A Kdrama without cameras. A script without writers. A connection written by life itself. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the story to keep the light burning for truth and compassion. After their quiet reunion, something shifted between Yibo and Zhan. Not in a dramatic way. Not in a way that could be captured by cameras. But in a way that both of them felt deep inside. That night, after hours of talking, they stepped outside into the cold air. The city lights reflected on the wet pavement. Cars passed in the distance. It was a normal night for everyone else, but for them, it felt like the beginning of something new. Zhan wrapped his scarf tighter. Yibo tucked his hands into his pockets. Neither spoke for a moment. Then Zhan said softly, "Thank you for coming tonight." Yibo looked at him, his expression calm but warm. "You didn't have to thank me," he replied. "I wanted to be here." It was a simple exchange. But simple things often hold the deepest weight. Zhan nodded, almost shy, then smiled the kind of smile he had not used in years. The kind that reached his eyes. Over the next weeks, they saw each other more often. Not every day. Not in ways that others noticed. Just quietly, naturally, like it was the most ordinary thing in the world. Sometimes they ate dinner after their schedules. Sometimes they met in small places where no one paid attention. Sometimes they didn't talk at all. They just sat in silence, letting the comfort between them fill the room. They also remembered old times. The long nights of filming. The jokes between scenes. The tension they didn't understand back then. The moments they didn't know were precious until they were gone. Yibo surprised Zhan one evening by bringing up a small detail from years ago, a line Zhan once struggled with during rehearsal. "You actually remember that?" Zhan asked. Yibo shrugged. "I remember what matters." It was an answer that Zhan carried with him for days. They were careful. Schedules changed. Cameras followed. Online discussions rose and fell like waves. And yet, they managed to keep the world out of their private space. Still, some people noticed small things. Yibo's mood seemed lighter after certain days. Zhan's smile appeared more often in interviews. Both seemed more grounded, more centered. But no one could explain why. Only they knew the reason. Their bond was not about public moments. It existed in the spaces between their lives. Quiet, steady, untouched by noise. One night, after a particularly tiring day, Zhan texted Yibo. "Are you awake?" Yibo replied almost instantly.
Yes.
What's wrong? Zhan hesitated before sending another message. Nothing's wrong. I just felt overwhelmed. Yibo didn't ask questions. He didn't lecture. He didn't offer dramatic comfort. He simply replied, "Come over." And Zhan did. They sat together in the dimly lit room.
No cameras.
No pressure. No audience. Zhan talked about the weight of expectations. Yibo listened without interrupting. When Zhan finally fell silent, Yibo said one thing. You don't have to carry everything alone. It was not a romantic statement. It was not poetic. But it was exactly what Zhan needed. Sometimes affection isn't expressed through declarations. Sometimes it is expressed through presence. And Yibo's presence that night meant everything. As their connection strengthened, the world began to notice again. Fans felt that something had changed. Media picked up little hints. Online threads grew louder. But this time, Yibo and Zhan were different. They were not shaken. They were not afraid. They did not distance themselves like before. Instead, they handled the situation with quiet grace. They did not deny anything. They did not confirm anything. They simply continued with their lives. The truth between them did not belong to the public. One evening, under the soft glow of streetlights, Yibo walked beside Zhan after dinner. It was late. The world was asleep. The city hummed in the distance. Zhan kicked a small pebble on the ground and said, "It feels strange. After all these years, we're back here, talking like this." Yibo nodded. "But it feels right." Zhan looked up at him. His eyes were gentle but questioning. "Do you ever think we lost too much time?" Yibo shook his head slowly.
No.
"We came back. That's what matters." Zhan breathed out, relieved. He didn't know he needed that answer until he heard it. Then, in the softest voice, almost too quiet for the night to hear, Yibo added, "I'm not going anywhere again." It was not a grand confession. It was not dramatic. It was a quiet promise, the kind that lasts longer than loud declarations. And Zhan believed him. Today, their connection is something strong but subtle. Not public. Not noisy. Not defined by labels. It is built on
Trust. Respect.
shared memories, quiet loyalty, mutual protection, deep understanding, a bond that survived distance and time. They're not just friends. They're not something dramatic either. They are simply two people who choose to stay in each other's lives, no matter how complicated things become. Their affection is neither fragile nor uncertain. It is steady, mature, grown from years of understanding and unspoken support. And that is what is going on between them now. A connection that stands even when silence surrounds it. Sometimes, when their schedules allow, they meet in quiet places, drink tea, talk about dreams, or sit in silence like they used to. Sometimes Zhan teases Yibo about his bluntness. Sometimes Yibo scolds Zhan for overthinking. It is a dynamic that survived everything. They do not talk about the future often. But when they do, it is simple. Yibo once said, "As long as we don't lose each other again, it's enough." Zhan smiled and nodded. It's enough. The world may never know the details of their bond. But what they have now is stronger than anything the public could ever guess. This is their story. Not written for headlines. Not created for attention. Not shaped by gossip. But shaped by time, loyalty, and quiet affection. The drama continues, not on screen, but in life. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the story to keep the light burning for truth and compassion.